Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Mr. Kyle Cohen. Thank you so much for clicking on my YouTube channel and today's video. I'm really excited to be bringing you a YouTube teacher tag. I am starting off this tag to continue a conversation that I've been having in some of my previous videos on this YouTube channel. I've been talking about what it's been like to teach during a pandemic, what it's like to build this plane as we are flying it. As teachers, we have never experienced anything like this before. As people, we've never experienced anything like this before. And I think it's really important that we are talking about our experience, that we're sharing best practices, things that are working and things that are not, so that we can hopefully at the end of the day provide all of our students with an education that they deserve. For this video, I have prepared 6 questions that I'm going to be sharing out with all of you today. If you are interested in participating in this tag, you can either leave comments down below with the answers to the questions that you can go ahead and share. You can also go ahead and make your own video here on YouTube where you answer these questions. With this being a tag, that means I need to be tagging people to move this tag forward. So I'm going to be tagging some of my absolute favorite teachers here on YouTube down in the description box. I'm really excited to hear all of their answers to these questions and to be continuing this conversation with each and every one of you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Question number 1, what is your current teaching context? In person, hybrid, or remote? So we started the school year off hybrid. I have shared in some of my previous videos that here in the state of Ohio, all of our counties are split up into 4 different levels based on the level of risk of the virus at any given point in time. These levels are fluid, they're constantly changing, and my district has decided to base our decision in regards to what our district is going to be doing based on these levels. At the beginning of the summer, all families had a decision to make. Would you participate in what the school is going to decide based on these 4 levels, or are you going to go 100% remote until the beginning of January? So once that decision was made, we started following along with the counties. I talked about in my last video that after having a successful 4 weeks of a hybrid learning model, our district is shifting to bringing students back 5 days a week. So at this point in time, I have a class full of 19 students. It's smaller than a typical year class size because of the students who are engaging in the 100% remote distance learning option. But for me, it is right now in person, 5 days a week with a full class of students. Question number 2, have things changed since the start of the school year? Are they expected to shift? What does this process look like? So I was touching a little bit about this before, and I have touched about it in some of my previous videos, but yes, things have changed. They're going to continue to change, and they will be inevitably changing for the rest of this school year. As teachers, it is part of our invisible job description to be flexible. We need to be flexible every minute of every day in order to provide our students, all of our students, with an equitable education. Now, in order to do that this year, it's really taking this idea of flexibility to an entire new level. I feel like every day we are learning something new about this virus and this pandemic, and we need to be constantly shifting and adapting. And I personally feel as educators, we have 2 options. We can either hop on this flexibility train and ride it off into the sunset, or we can let all of these shifts and changes get the best of us and really destroy our love for this work. Now, all this to say that I do have moments where I am upset and frustrated and overwhelmed, but I do everything I can to remain flexible and positive to best support my students. Question number 3, what is something that you have come to enjoy about your current teaching context? Something that I really came to enjoy about our hybrid teaching context was our class sizes. I had 9 students who came to school on Mondays and Wednesdays, 10 students who came to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. With 20, 25, 30 students in the room, it is so hard to provide each and every single individual student with the particular education that they need. In education, this is what we love to call differentiation, and this concept is vital in order to successfully educate our students, but it is so challenging to effectively do with a larger class size. But when I only have 9 or 10 students in the room, I'm not only able to really understand what my students need, but actually be able to deliver on those needs. So I'm able to really pinpoint instruction, focus on specific skills and gaps in student learning, and focus on intricacies that I wouldn't have the capacity to do if it's a typical school year. So small class sizes with the hybrid model were amazing. Question number 4, what are some of the greatest challenges you are currently facing when thinking about your current teaching context? There are quite a few challenges this year, and I feel like I can make a really long list of challenges, but for me, the first thing that comes to mind and the biggest challenge I think that I'm facing is the fact that kids cannot really be together. When thinking about the ideal classroom and my ideal classroom, it is filled of opportunities throughout the day when students are really connecting with one another, whether this is through group work, turn-in talks, projects, out at recess, in the lunchroom, in the hallway, during brain breaks in free time. Students are constantly afforded the opportunity to just be kids with one another, and we do not have that luxury this school year, and it has really, really been a challenge for me. I didn't realize how much of my lesson planning and how much of my teaching involves student voice and student voice with one another. In my classroom, I've also had flexible seating for the past few years, so giving kids the chance to just sit in the corner of the room with 3 friends close together working on something, and sitting right next to your friend as you work on a project, and this just looks so different this year, and I'm trying to be as innovative and creative as I can, but at the end of the day, with our current restrictions in place, it's really hard to allow kids the opportunity to just be free to do what they please, to explore in ways that I really like to position them to explore, and to teach in the way that I love to teach. Question number 5. If you had a magic wand that could zap you back to pre-pandemic times, what would your perfect day of teaching look like? Wow, so for me, this would look like getting to work really early. I'm a big morning person, and I try to get to work as early as possible. So getting to work extra early, donuts in the teacher's lounge. Now, I don't know if your school is like this, but we cannot have any food that isn't like pre-packaged. And one of my favorite things about teaching is when someone would bring donuts or muffins or something in the teacher's lounge and just send a spontaneous email to everyone like, hey, donuts in the teacher's lounge, go enjoy. So running to the teacher's lounge and eating an uncomfortable amount of sugar early in the morning, I miss that. Having a coffee out in the hallway, now that we're wearing masks, I can't just like sip my coffee, and every morning I stand outside of my door greeting students as they walk in, and I loved drinking my coffee as students walked into my classroom every morning. So that would definitely be part of my perfect day. I miss holding morning meetings on our carpet where we were able to sit knee to knee on the carpet with one another and really just catch up as a class, laugh with one another, and engage in our typical morning meeting. It's really hard holding morning meetings when students are sitting at desks facing forward. It feels like I'm just facilitating a lesson at that point. We're doing our best to kind of figure out what morning meetings can look like given our current restrictions, but it just isn't the same, and I really miss that. And as I was kind of sharing in the last question, throughout the day it will look like really amazing projects and room transformations and engaging lessons that students are working with partners and in groups and just engaging with one another with shared materials and supplies, and oh, it's nice to dream. Question number 6. What changes do you hope to see in our education system as a result of this pandemic? As a result of this pandemic and this global health crisis, one huge takeaway that came out of the spring for me was when testing was waived, when state testing went away, when we no longer had the stress of state testing, I was able to do things in my classroom with my students that I typically never have time to do. So in the spring, this looked like having all of this opportunity for social emotional learning, where I was able to just tell stories with my students, laugh with my students, play games with my students. My hope is that we look critically into the role that testing plays in our schools, both from the teacher and student perspective. When that testing is lifted, when that burden is lifted, some really incredible things can happen. And I believe that testing does have a place in our education system, and I value data and assessments, but I think that the pressure that testing brings in our current education landscape is at times really toxic and damaging for kids, and I hope that we are able to critically think about changing that as we move forward as a nation. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about what my experience has been like teaching through a pandemic. If you are new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscription button down below. I have shared all different types of updates in regards to how the first month or so of teaching has been through this global health crisis. Again, if you are interested in participating in this tag, go ahead and answer the questions in the comments in your own video. Looking forward to seeing all the videos of my teacher pals that I have tagged down below here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.